Welcome back to block party number 98. We're having a super cool conversation. Rebecca was in the middle of a really cool point, and then Bill also has his hand up, and I'll be stepping away for a few minutes to help Sarah, but then I'll be back in a few minutes. So see you. And here's Sarah.
Hi, everybody. We're about to make the stew. So
yeah, we're about to make the stew for Food Healers. Woo!
Yeah, I'm really proud of Jamin. He's soaking beans. He's filling in for Chef Andy.
Soaking beans is how we say really cool in here in this part.
I'm pretty happy about it because
Jamin, man, he's just soaking beans.
Yeah, soaking beans.
Soaking beans. All right, so I'll be back in a few.
What do you mean?
Soak some beans, people. Soak some beans. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Well, I was kind of done with what I was saying. I just really want to, I don't think humanity is going to come together as one if we're all negative. I mean, I just want to run from people who are negative at this point. So, and I myself like can be very negative. So I kind of feel like if we could all figure out like the joy of life and the joy of being human, what's worth saving, you know, not trauma, like not all this depressing stuff, like, you know, what's the joy of being a human being and what's worth saving and what should we focus on saving, and, you know, how can we have fun doing it? You know, things that we can make the best of these last few years that we have together, no matter how old you are. But anyway, I'm done. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, that was my initial gut reaction when I first got through not got through, but it was long. So I needed to, you know, get through it. But it was very interesting and it kept my attention to the end. Now I've come back and reflected a little bit on it and heard what James has had to say, and I get it. It's kind of like, my analogy is not going to be the best, but it's kind of like bad cop, worse cop. But I don't want to refer to SRM as bad cop. It's just difficult news that they even have to do anything. But then when they hear John talk, that's not even going to work. These guys aren't even going to work. Wait a second, this won't even work. It's that bad. So I get it. That being said, I don't believe John Doyle really good.
He froze.
I mean, he did mention that, you know, when he was talking about, you know, ye and go for it if it works, great. But it doesn't sound like, it doesn't take that long to really kind of snip into this stuff and to see, okay, these are really bright people and they have scientifically engineered a solution. And if he knew that, unless his pullback is just thinking that there ain't no way people are gonna actually do this. But if he believed in it and said, hey, listen, I don't think this is gonna happen, but these guys have shown scientifically that it can happen. That's what we need. We need people coming together saying, hey, listen, this is viable, but we gotta wake up. And it's not all doom and gloom. It is definitely doom and gloom if we do nothing, but if we all pull together, here we are at extending possibly your life and your kids' lives, because what the timeline that they're talking about here is not our kids' lives, it's affecting our lives. I mean, the exponential growth and heating that's already baked into the cake is, you know, it's upon us. I mean, it's coming. It's you know, it's now. This is now. It's not tomorrow. It's not, you know, that's what you gotta get people knowing that. And yeah, it sucks, but here we are. I'd still rather be doing something, even if it doesn't end up working, than nothing, because my kids will know at least that I tried. They're not going to look at me and say, hey, why didn't you at least try? They're watching me try. Okay, another pit break here. Running. I'll be back.
So James, are you, like, when you kind of cut this
Sorry.
video down, I guess you can kind of strategically decide what is a good contribution, like historical perspective, and what's just maybe hearsay, or like it doesn't really matter, like what his this delivery of slinkies, like is that really important to what we're talking about now? I just feel like it'd be great if you could fine tooth comb it. Who does the video editing? Jamin?
Yeah, my daughter's doing the video editing, Stephanie. So yeah, that's her profession anyway. So we'll be getting that sorted. And yeah, I mean, initially, as I said, until I actually watched the recording back myself, I was a bit hesitant because I thought it went negative. Some of it was negative, John's responses and things like that, and I thought Paul Beckwith went off in a different tangent with the truckers and things like that. But having watched it back then at the second time, I realised that, the majority of it is actually all valid in what's been said, because it does all relate back to the same problem, the global warming. Now, in my response to what you said, what you said there yourself, and Bill's answer, like, I agree with what you said, and I'm glad you picked up on it, is that John's answer and response really is coming from his personal, like from his life and his life experience, and that's how he's feeling. That's where his response to the negativity is coming from at the moment. And yeah, even myself and Jamin talked about that. He's, probably burnt out from banging his head against the wall and screaming at people in the European Union as well for years, and he's at the stage now where, fuck it, it's gone too far, we can't do anything about it. But again, your response to that was, I don't believe in this negativity. I prefer to actually be more on the positive side. Bill's reply was, yeah, I get where he's coming from, and I agree, but that's his personal opinion. But I'm not the type of person who's going to give up. So you see, both of you had the same response that I'm saying we'd get if John was on the panel with the scientists. Is that people would say, well, I get what they're saying, and I understand he's fucking doesn't think it's going to work. But that's his opinion, and I'd rather not be negative. I'd rather take the chance with what they're saying and go with that and see if it will work. I'm not lying down and doing nothing about it. In other words, that is the response we want, like, from people initially. So yeah, John is talking from the heart as well about his frustration with the system that he works in, and its unwillingness to change itself for the greater good. It's a system that's caught and it's designed to not change itself, like, it's, you know what I mean? So he's frustrated with that. That's a part of his life, and that's why he's negative in a sense. But at the end of the day, as you said, he does keep coming around and saying, look, that's just me, that's my opinion, but I'm all for what you're doing here, with the food healers. I'm also, sign me up for the press conference. I'll be there, I'll be I'll be the Mr. Negative or whatever. But he's willing to do it, to be part of it, to help in whatever way he can, because he still himself believes, like, you have to keep trying. That's what he says, like, we have to try, even though he feels he's banging his head against the European Union. He's still working on projects there, like, you know what I mean? Because he has to try. So he's been negative, but he's also been realistic. So his negativity is coming from realism, but he's not being overly pessimistic. He's saying he's lost his optimism, but we still have to keep trying. Sorry, passing it up.
Yeah, I think at some point we kind of are missing the role that John was playing, and I think he might even be doing it purposely. He didn't say don't do marine cloud brightening. What he did say is that everything humanity has done so far has brought us to this point where he does not see, as a scientist, that we can survive another 15 years. And that we've had plenty of opportunities to do things and make things right, like 26 COP meetings that have accomplished zero. They have accomplished zero. Everyone has been a total fucking failure. The best legislation he passed to develop, a system, labeling system, so that people could see at a glance what's the most energy saving device, backfired. It didn't save energy. It didn't have people going out well, they did go out, they did see these labels, they did buy things that saved energy, but they bought so many of them. And, oh, hey, we can afford a second refrigerator in the garage because it only uses less, they use so much less energy, so now we can keep the beer cold too and not worry about it. Things like that are what happened. I know another big failure that I saw was those compact fluorescent lights. They saved a certain amount of energy and they were supposed to last so long. I bought them. They were supposed to last, years and years, like 15 years or some ridiculous thing like that. And I've had them burn out in the first month. And they're horrible for the environment. They're one of the worst light bulbs. Fluorescence is just, they have to be specially recycled. They were a horrible mistake. But somebody made a lot of money making those bastards, and John's reluctance to do any kind of engineering, geoengineering, is our past history and what we've done. When we decided to make a hydroelectric dam, we said, oh, natural green energy, it's just water flowing. But what did we have to do? We had to destroy a whole ecosystem in order to make a dam. We changed everything upstream. And in some cases, it's had, very disastrous effects. He's looking at everything we've done to change the planet so far, and every opportunity we've had to do great things, with this ability to ship things across the ocean and deliver things right on time with this technology where we don't have to worry about things, food spoiling. We can ship food from China to the United States and have it in the grocery store, still in a condition to be eaten. That wasn't possible. But what do we have? We brought, instead of feeding people in a country that are starving with that technology, we brought a boatload of Slinkies across. That's the comparison. We didn't end hunger with that ability. We shipped Slinkies across. It's with every new technology we've made and used, we've done more bad than good. That's his point. He said, we have to try. He said, but I have no faith in humanity. I have no faith left that with this new technology we'll do the good thing and transform society to where we are sustainable. What he's saying is, yeah, you'll cool the planet, and some dumbass will say, hey, now that we can cool the planet, it doesn't matter how much fossil fuels we burn and how much greenhouse gases we put up, because now we know how to cool the planet. That's what he's afraid of. And we need to see that. People need to see that and really fear. They need to really fear that outcome. And we need to really think about what we're doing and do it for the right reason. And then still, and then, that's that part about not being attached to the outcome. We have to do it because it's the right thing to do, to try. And then we have to put all our effort into transforming society and the things we do on a daily basis to where we are sustainable and rebuild the health of the planet so that it's good for everybody and not just the affluent. That's so John's comments, if you listen correctly, they are very valid, and they should evoke that, fight in the rest of us to be able to want to risk doing this thing that has absolutely, there's always a possibility of a negative outcome that we didn't see. And we got to be prepared to deal with that too. We need to bring our fighting spirit, our will to survive and make things better for everyone. These are the people we need, the ones who want to make things better for everyone, not just themselves. And with that, I pass the talking feather.
Yeah, well, thanks, Marco. And yeah, I believe, yeah, John. Nobody likes nobody likes to be pessimistic, and we prefer to be more positive about things. Nobody wants
I still
negativity.
think it gets back down to what
Yeah, I just finished. I'll just make it a quick point. I said nobody wants. There's none of us here wants negativity in our lives, and we all want to be positive, of course, and we want to influence our children in a positive way and everything else. But at the same time, we've lived with this a bit attitude for a long time. We have to be positive. We have to be positive. Yeah, we have to be positive until it's time to actually face the negativity so that we can be positive in our response to it. So I believe that John is essential for the very purpose of the conversation that came back there from yourself, Rebecca, and from Bill, in the sense that his negativity through his own personal experience and his own personal belief is inspiring you to not be negative, and inspiring Bill to say, I'm not lying down, I'm going to help with these guys. So literally, I believe in what I say, like that his presence is going to inspire that kind of reaction from the people. The raw, honest truth is not a positive truth. It's a horrible, negative, fucking horrible fact to face up to, and we can't address it in any positive light. We can only address it in the light it's in. It's a horrible fucking bit of news. It's negative, horrible news. But here we have a bunch of people who are professionals, top in the world, peer-reviewed literature, peer-reviewed science, the math, the physics, the whole lot, the geometry, all works out. John is even saying, yes, this is a viable plan, but he hasn't got the confidence in humanity to pull their shit together to work to do the job. Let's put that as a challenge to people and say, let's prove John wrong. Let's actually pull ourselves together and let's pull ourselves behind this and get it done. I think John's negativity will inspire positivity. That's what I believe in it.
Yeah, I think that you can frame it. If there's a way to frame it to help people get to listen right, as Marco said, if there's a way to caption some of it, maybe where you say, this is a historical perspective of value, like some of the points that you just made, I wish I wrote them all down, but like the reason that that his negativity, or I don't even want to use that word, because it's like he's making connections to Slinkies. The reason the Slinky is in the video is because we've crossed that T. Like there was the problem of Jevons paradox where, and that was talked about, or no, that was just in our chat, but I think that's what made the guy think of that it was Jevons paradox. So I think it's good to maybe give the audience, if it's possible, to put some captions or something on top of the video if your daughter's skilled in doing that type of thing, where you pop in like Jevons paradox, so that it helps the listener listen right. Like we're trying to educate, we're trying to put the truth out there and trying to build consensus. And
yeah, I mean that's the raw version of the video. So as I said, we'll have to decide if what and needs to be taken out and everything to condense it well. not to condense it down to just to try and fit it into a time frame. I don't think that's the point of the whole video in the first place, is to get the message across. And I believe whatever's necessary to stay in to get the message across will have to stay in, obviously. Like, so that's why I reckon it's going to end up being either 2 or 3 videos in parts, like part 1, 2, and 3. But yeah, she's going to be adding in captions and, you know, all the usual, the credentials at the start and everything. That'll all be done anyway as well. But I get where you're coming from. I get where you're coming from. If to make it
One
more.
request I would have too is that it's kind of hilarious when he says lay ta or whatever, instead of saying yay tau. Like if you could make it a little bit humorous, and like wherever he says, he mispronounces yay tau, like if you could dub over it and just say he means yay tau, like, and there's a lot of stuff where he's like, I don't fucking remember his name, you know, like you might.
But I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's at the very end anyway. There are parts of that will be, because we're talking about a press conference. We don't want the public to know about that yet, because that's something that we don't want to be preemptive, preemptively stopped or something. So, you know, there are parts that will have to come out of it. So I get where you're coming from, though.
Yeah. It'd be good to have some images popped in of like the ships and stuff, but I guess I didn't see the whole thing. I only saw what you guys showed just now. And so Salter's like whole like 12-minute presentation is embedded in this.
Yeah, the whole video, the entire of it was over 2.5 hours. Like, so we'll have to break that down. Like.
Yeah, that's good though. I think he got it down to 12 minutes. Like, that's pretty good. Pass the feather.
Jonathan, sorry, man.
Hey, how's it going out there? Anyway, so I loved your conversation just now, Rebecca, and I just wanted to say, just as I texted you, every person who's ever lived has been ripped out of this reality at the end of their lives by the all-powerful nature. And this will happen to us too someday, each one. So the difference is we have an idea when that might be for us. 3 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever. Big deal. It's not essentially different than at any past time. Just like those people in the past, all we have to do is use the time allotted to us, you know, to get with it and do what we can to make this an adventure, you know, that we're proud of. Everybody dies. Eventually it gets ripped out of this reality and into the next adventure. People can believe whatever they want about that next one. So we're here. So let's do it. Let's do something. Let's try to make a better world. But you know, it's not really essentially different than at any other time when people were faced with the prospect of their demise, which technically has been every person who ever lived.
But I feel like the problem is when people realize that truth, that we actually have an expiration date, it negates a lot of the trust mechanisms that we operate on in our society, like insurance. The insurance industry is completely based on longevity and risk, and you know, they create these products so that people can make long-term investments with lots and lots of money. And when you say, well, hey, you know, there's max 15 years left, that creates a completely different paradigm for people to organize their lives. And I mean, I think it's great to do that thought experiment, maybe take it to the next level beyond a thought experiment and just say, okay, we're a club, we're a society here. We're the 15-year society, and we think that we're all going to die in 15 years. So given this 15-year time frame, we're going to do X, X, and X. And you make a plan. And I mean, a lot of people mainstream would be like, you're the Looney Tunes Society. You know, they aren't going to accept that. That knowledge. It's like the crystal ball, the science of saying, you know, we're so smart now that we've modeled the whole planet, and we know that if this tipping point's crossed, it's 15 years, and it's still like a betting situation. But so it's like we're the consensus club that made this agreement that we're in the 15 years. So if you convince the most powerful entity on the earth with the most money ever to join the 15-year club, maybe it could make a difference. Pass the feather.
Yeah, just to directly address only your 15-year club scenario, if we got everyone together that believed we only have 15 years left and said this is a 15-year club, you're still going to have a minimum of 2 factions in there. One where everybody says, okay, sex, drug, booze, rock and roll, everything goes, orgies, 22 hours a day. And then there's going to be ones that say we have an obligation to do the best we can with this time and leave some, shoot the values that, record our great achievements and try and leave that record somewhere, shoot it out in space. So again, there's going to be, and perhaps with the party that says let's make the best we can and leave something important for others that we will never see, maybe in the process of doing those things the 15 years changes to a lot longer. And with that, I pass the talking feather.
Well, we must also bear in mind now as well that the 15 years is in John Doyle's honest and educated in the science study, in science and as an engineer, and his understanding that it's his personal belief that he can't logically see any human beings being here after 15 years, but it could be any year in between then, throw a dart at a dartboard kind of a thing. But who knows, something might happen and that might, change. So he's open to it, like, you know what I mean? That's what I said. He's just telling the raw truth of the fact that if we don't actually do anything, we are more or less, have that time frame. Like, so again, I think he's putting a challenge to people. That's what I see it as. Anyway.
Yeah, and I think from what we've learned here with the different engineers and scientists and all the information we've had access to, I think if things stay the way they are right now, 15 years is a generous time frame. I don't think we have that much time without cooling the planet. It's just going to be an ugly, painful end of life on this planet for the 6th time. And with that, I pass the feather. Well, let me back that up. I believe we need to try, and if we try, we can manage. And I'm gonna like John, I still don't have a lot of faith in humanity to do the things we need to do. Once we save ourselves and buy more time, I think it's going to be extremely difficult to get people to change. But what is there to do except try? Well, that's where we're at. But I have I have faith in the marine cloud brightening. and I have faith that there's enough of us that will try, that we last, that we make a fairly decent run at changing so that we live sustainably, but it won't be easy. All right, with that, I'm complete for now.
It'd be nice to have like a focus group that could review the video, James. And I would like it if it was like young people, the 18 to 30-year-old group. Those, like, the game is, I feel like the game has changed for them, you know, because this knowledge was very suppressed when I was going to college, and, you know, the whole IPCC with 12 years left and all that stuff, that has the problem of human extinction is very mainstream now, I think. I mean, I feel like you'd have to really have your head in the sand to not know about this. I think that maybe the mainstream doesn't know that there are solutions, but to have a test group, a focus group that you could then have maybe a quiz, like you're trying to build consensus on 5 certain points or whatever that we can work together, we as human beings, and we can do SRM. But you don't want to just outright say that, but you like it for them to know that you were successful in communicating that. Maybe the focus group questions might be like, after watching this video, do you feel that it would be worth your time to research, you know, the applications of marine cloud brightening in your career future? You know, like how can, once people agree to this, or like they're like, yeah, I want to do this, is there something for them to tap into? Pass the feather.
Yeah, I think
Marco came first. Right.
I think that you think most people understand or are aware of the global warming situation, I think is not so. Let me you know, he who should not be named in this case, his you know, President 45 of the United States said global warming is a hoax created by the Chinese. And you know, for all the people that still think he's the rightful president, they believe all that. So there's half the United States population that believes global warming is just some you know, political ploy, some hoax. It's so I think you're overestimating people's ability to sort the bullshit out when you say, if you think most people are aware of this. They're not. And that's one of the reasons for this video, is that not enough people are aware of the problem, much less that there's solutions. The ones that are aware of the problem are pretty much believing, for the majority, that there just are no solutions, you know, that we're just fucked. And so 2 things are to be accomplished with the video, is to bring awareness to not only, you know, more awareness to the problem, but awareness to the problem with the idea that there are solutions that can be implemented. And not even one, there's, you know, Mir is another. ICE 9/11, I would do right away in conjunction with marine cloud brightening. It's, safe, and I can't, it's really hard to imagine the adverse effect of putting an inert thing like sand, a light colored sand on the glaciers to help them be reflective. The ones that are so dirty with the, pollution on the top of them, they're almost black, causing them to melt so much faster. If we can spread a little light colored sand on top, I'd like to see somebody find a negative effect of that. It's so unlikely. So just I'm starting to ramble, so I'm going to pass the talking feather. I believe Franca was next.
I'm not sure where this is going to go. This thing that I'm going to say. I just feel that there is this other narrative of, well, this sounds really crazy now. I identify as Christian. I don't think that much of the second coming of the Lord, but maybe maybe it is possible that we're still in God's hands. We're not just like randomly dying away, and that maybe things are actually unfolding as they're meant to. I know this sounds very crazy, and I'm not sure how to marry my Sunday morning mindset with this. This is why it sounds a bit rambly, but I'm just sharing. And with that, I pass the talking stick to whoever wants to pick it up.
Well, I guess I'll grab that one. It's not that, I think a lot of phrases and concepts and ideas of various usefulness come out of the Bible. I'm not real confident that the Bible is the word of God. It's been translated, too many times, and people putting their own spin on things. But one thing that I like that's quoted often from the Bible is, of course, I think there's value in prayer for a number of reasons. I won't even get into them, but you can't pray and sit back and expect everything to fall in your lap. The one thing that I've liked that's attributed to the Bible, and at some point, God or one of the disciples, Jesus' disciples, saying, God helps those that help themselves. So if you're not willing to get off your ass and try, don't expect God to, make a rosy bed for you. And with that, I pass the talking feather.
Well, I was born into a Catholic family in a Catholic country, and it wasn't just that we were born into it and told that, or just went to church. It was beaten into us as children. You know what I mean? Our religion, like literally the lessons of our religion were beaten into us as children. And of course, when a child is getting beaten in the name of by whatever and for whatever reason, the only thing the child does is the opposite to what is trying to be pounded into him. He rebels against it. Like, so as a very young child, I always questioned things anyway. So I've been questioning my religion from a very young age, and from 12 up, I suppose, and I've gone through a lot of different religions in my lifetime, and still do, and I still come to the same conclusion at the end of the day, that I don't know it all, and neither does anyone else. And what you just said there, Franca, is very true. As a Christian, we're not in control of everything, and God has plans, and it'll all work out as it's supposed to. Do you know what that tells me? It'll all work out as it's supposed to. Tells me that I'm doing the right thing. I'm actually here in the right place, doing what I'm supposed to do, because it all works out as it's supposed to. So maybe I'm supposed to be in these conversations with you people, and maybe these conversations will come to fruition, and that we might actually achieve. So I always have that bit of hope, because I'm aware of my Christian background. I don't like to say I'm a Catholic anymore, but I still believe in Christ, and I'm that Christ existed, and I believe in the principles of the the Bible. So I know I don't believe in any particular religion. I just believe that I know that there's something more than just our physical selves, you know what I mean? And there's more to this life and this Mother Earth that we're on and everything else. And I know we don't have all the answers, but I do believe that in my heart that things are working out as they're supposed to, and God's plan, and that we have no control over God's plan, in for lack of a better word, God's plan. So therefore I believe that whatever actions we're doing them because they're all part of God's plan. So we're all doing the right thing, except for those who are actually doing downright wrong things. But then maybe there's a reason for that too, because that makes people stand up for right. I don't know. Again, you could go into this fucking quagmire forever. I'm just saying, I don't like to give the feeling of the loss of hope to people, or the negativity. But what I try to do is to let people, or try to get people to face up to the reality. And though those realities may be negative, that if we actually come together as the true species we are, as the one human family, then maybe we could turn those negativities into positives. You know what I mean? And then it'll all work out as it should. Passing the feather.
I find that religion is too fantastical to be practical. So I think that, I mean, I like to keep things kind of more observational. And it's tough when you can't explain things like metaphysical things, coincidences, stuff like that. And I think that people's ability to keep themselves happy, they may need certain patterns, behavior patterns, and rituals and stuff. And it's okay, it's okay to practice religion, but it's tough to come to consensus with religion type things. So I would prefer to keep them out of discussions about saving nature. I think it's hard. I mean, I think that one commonality I have a lot of religious relatives, and I think that they think about death every day. I think that they're very cognizant that any day they're going to be going to heaven, they're going to be raptured, and so they think about death every day, and I do too. And so we have that in common, but it's just so weird that it leads to different actions. I think I feel like they have the cognitive dissonance of, it's going to be great when I die because I'm going to be in heaven. Like, so why don't you just die right now? Like, why are you hanging on? This is a tough life we have here. So there's that weird, like, cognitive dissonance I see going on there. But I mean, maybe that's a skill. They have that skill to keep on going in this life, despite thinking that it's going to be much better when they die. That's a good talent. I feel like this is it, man. This is the best life right now. It's beautiful. Like, I mean, I'm fortunate. I live in a beautiful place, and I have healthy family members. And I mean, I got fired from my job, so I wouldn't say, I feel like I'm in a shitty culture that when you speak the truth, they fire you. because like, it's just not, you can't speak the truth to call people out on unfairness. That's not allowed, you're just not allowed to do that. You're going to get kicked out. If you you cross the line, and I crossed the line with my job, and sure enough, like they fired me. So, I don't know, like just a tool for, I want to reach out to all people who they think God has a plan, and they think that I feel like they always justify everything. Like, your brother got killed brutally in a horrible accident. Well, that was God's plan. So I don't know that it's useful, like, to make decisions, really. I think it's better if it's kept as like a coping mechanism, like to believe that things are going to be better. That's a good coping mechanism, and that's a commonality that I share with my dear religious relatives. Pass the feather.
Yeah, I think where you were headed with, I don't think, tell me if this quote is wrong. I don't think religion is useful in discussions about natural things, yeah, when we start making decisions on what other people are allowed to bring to the table in a discussion, we're treading on very dangerous ground. Where and it's certainly, I believe, despite there are some religions that due to the way humans interpret them and what they do, like Catholics being brought up in a Catholic school where the nuns smack your knuckles with a yardstick when you do something that they don't think is right, or you're not learning fast enough, or various horror stories that I've heard from people that are very trustworthy and believable. I still think that the world is a better place for people with faith in it. Faith is a very powerful tool for good, and I'd rather be, I think, in a room full of people that believe in the rapture than people that believe in depopulation is the answer to our problems, rather than a belief that we should always do the right thing and trust that God has a plan. I'd rather be in a room full of them, or a city full of them, than the people, the billionaires that think, we can use this global warming to our advantage and hope it kills off enough of the population that it becomes what they feel is the right amount, and then they'll still be the wealthiest people, and they'll bring out their ideas on reversing the damage that they think they can buy with their money after the fact, because those people are out there. I'd still rather be with people that have a belief in a God that does right, and a belief that they should always be doing the right thing if they want their place in heaven. So that's what I think. And with that, I pass the feather.
Franca, I'm curious if you find that useful at all. Like you said, you're not quite sure how to resolve how you feel. Is that helpful? Like, is it? I mean, I agree with Marco. I don't think we should exclude any anything's on the table, right? It's conversation. People have to feel free to say whatever they think. Like, is all this discussion a conflict of interest for the Sunday morning stuff? Like,
Just thinking about that. Like I said, I'm not even pleading for anything. I'm just saying there's a tension, I guess. And the more I think about it, the more I feel that's the tension in every field of my life. Isn't there this quote like pray as if nothing that you could possibly do made any difference, and work and do shit as if prayer didn't make a difference? And I think I'm kind of living in that field of tension. You could possibly, as a very pious Christian, just kick back and just watch the world go by. But that's usually not what people do. They are very active, seeing Christ in their fellow person, you know, like their neighbors. And yeah, and Jesus is quoted, you know, like saying, well, you guys are cool, you know, like because you visited me in prison, you fed me, you gave me something to drink or something. They were like, we don't know you that long. When did we ever clothe you, given you something to drink or whatever? And then he says that whatever you do to the least of you know, whatever the people that you wouldn't think of, that's those people are the ones that if you do it to them, you do it to me. So there are a lot of do-gooders out there who feel they're serving their God doing it. So I think some just kick back and some get very active, and they're very seemingly contradictory passages in the Bible. Like some people will say, well, I have to be a pacifist. How can I possibly become a soldier? And some feel, no, I do have to become a soldier. Or some even deduct veganism, or at least vegetarianism from scripture. And others are like, what? So I'm just sitting here. I think my gut feeling is that big shit doesn't happen just randomly. And I still feel I want to be part of this movement and help be part of giving us some time. I'm just living in that tension.
it's definitely a tension. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think the quote you were looking for is closer to, I'd rather live my life as if there were a God, and when I die, find out there's not, than to live my life as if there were not a God and find out there was when I die.
Although, Marco, on that note, I think it was the Apostle Paul said, if you were like an atheist with no faith, but you were a good person, that you fulfilled the law, and basically made out that if you live a good life, you'd be a better person without faith, because the person with faith is doing it for fear of punishment, whereas the person who has no faith is just doing it because they think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I wasn't agreeing with the quote necessarily. I was just trying to
Well, I'm not disagreeing with you either. Just point
say it
out
more
a
accurately.
side
Yeah.
note.
Yeah, yeah, I personally, I think, you know, doing the right thing without, not because it's the right thing to do, which we've stressed, you know, I hope I've stressed often enough. You do it because it's the right thing to do. And like John said, you know, not be attached to the outcome. That's even better if you're doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do and not for fear of punishment.
Mm-hmm.
Not so sure how keen Jesus would be on Christianity if he came back today. When you think of his primary mission when he was here the first time was speaking out against religion, and he was a Jew, and he spoke out against the Jewish religion, said they were hypocrites, offspring of vipers, told them how little love they had, how little kindness they had, and how they had no forgiveness, and eventually they killed him for speaking out against them. Wasn't exactly in favor of the religion of the time, was he?
Yeah, exactly.
Mark, well, we've a new visitor there. You might want to welcome them there.
Oh, who? Oh, I missed that. Hey, Pete. Well, I guess.
Oh no, he left already. I wonder what people's expectation is when they turn up. Do they feel we drop everything to welcome them, or do they feel they're joining something that's been going on and has its own momentum, and at some point they might be acknowledged personally? What do you think tends to be people's like average expectation, if there is any?
I don't know what the average is, but I know definitely some people come in and, well, you know, like our Zoom bombers, they come in to
Oh,
cause
Zoom
trouble and
bombers,
have
of course.
fun. Or some come in and hope they're not noticed. And for various reasons. One, so that they can just listen, entertainment value. I think sometimes they come in, even though they go through a waiting room, they somehow think that they're not being noticed when they come in. And then maybe they can spy a little bit for some reason. I think I don't think there's any general reason.
Mhm. I know that Damon, even when we're not recording, suspects that it's nicer if he drops everything and goes, "Yay, who are you? Welcome."
Well, regardless, I think he's right in that sense. Especially if we recognize someone comes in and it's not someone that we're familiar with, so we should stop and welcome them, because like that man or whoever it was that came in there, no, I didn't recognize that name or who it was, but we didn't stop to actually welcome him. And the first part of the conversation he heard about was about Jesus and things, so he knew it.
Yeah, he'll not be back. He thinks they're a bunch of religious nutters in a room.
Exactly, he doesn't know whether to get into Sunday school or not. Like, so what I'm saying is, it's our obligation to stop and welcome them, so that they're not getting the wrong idea by picking up on just a small fragment of conversation
Well,
and getting turned
Yeah.
away, turned off.
I think anybody that can take that few seconds and decide they don't belong here is somebody we don't need anyway. If they don't have the ability to pay attention for a few minutes to get a real feel for it. If they think they can grasp the value of being here in that short a time, I think I don't think they're meant to be here anyway.
Or maybe we just have like
I agree, but what I'm just saying is it just goes back to the old saying here in Ireland: two subjects you don't bring up in the pub: religion and politics.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? And if somebody comes in and we're in the middle of someone mentioning something about religion or politics, I think it's almost all the better we need to stop and welcome them, so they don't get the wrong idea.
But I don't think we need to stop recording ever because somebody comes in, because they have two warnings. One in the waiting room, it says there's a recording, and when you come, as soon as you pop in, it says there's a recording again. So there should be no reason to stop the recording because they know they're being recorded. It's not possible to not know.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't about stopping the recording. No, they just said stop speaking.
Right.
We should finish what we're saying, or just stop straight away and just welcome them and just tell them what we're talking about or whatever. But
Yeah. No, I think it's okay to give a real quick acknowledgement that somebody entered, but don't let it interrupt the flow.
Does anyone have any legal familiarity with the Good Samaritan laws? Like
never
I
heard them.
recently, like in making interventions to, like with mirrors, making interventions to cool the planet. Like you're putting a mirror in your yard and your neighbor might be like, ew, like that's hideous. Like, and they might go to the town and be like, I want that out of here.
Oh, that would be zoning laws.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like in the
Samaritan laws, Good Samaritan laws vary by state. They're usually on the state level. There may be even some city level ones, but I know primarily they go by state. And Michigan is a good Samaritan state. And you know, the pharmaceutical companies have used that to their advantage. In Michigan, you can't join any class action lawsuit for a medication that's been proven to hurt people because of our Good Samaritan law. Because they were trying to do
What?
they were offering medication, not, you know, not as a, you know, in good faith. So, and that came out of, you know, people having a heart attack on the street, and a Good Samaritan stops and does CPR improperly, breaks a few ribs, and gets sued. So they said, well, you know, that's not right. If you're providing medical intervention with all good intentions, you should be immune from lawsuit. So the pharmaceutical companies jumped right on that in Michigan. You cannot benefit from a lawsuit against a pharmaceutical company in Michigan. My friend had bladder cancer, and he was on the medication that caused it. And even though there's a nationwide lawsuit, he was unable to join it because of living in Michigan.
Huh.
Yeah, I feel like this concept of good faith and how it's actually defined legally is really important for the discussion about intervening geoengineering with the planet. Who benefits from it? Can it be corrupted? Is it good on a micro scale? Someone's just doing it in their backyard. Could they be prosecuted? Or will they be considered Looney Tunes? Like, so the faith thing is, and getting people to have consensus when they're of different faiths is kind of important, I think. I don't want to get down in the details of like the historical, I don't know, like, I hate it when people go into really specific Bible stuff. That drives me nuts, because it's like, I mean, aren't 2/3 of the world are not Christians, right? I don't know. Maybe half the world's a Christian. I don't know. But anyway, so many people are religious that it's important to, it's just like so many people don't believe in climate change, I guess. It's important to figure out where the common ground, good Samaritan, what would we all agree is a good Samaritan action? And is that a natural human decision? Like, we all know it's good to save a sunflower or something, but then, you know, once the sunflowers if they become a monocrop, it's bad. Like, it's sort of like, where are these lines that we cross with faith? I don't know, like faith in the pharmaceutical companies. I mean, we're all thinking about that now. It's so weird, really. I'll pass the feather.
I mean, how do you deal with people who don't even believe in climate change? I mean, it's, you know, all I can do is show them Keeling's curve, and just, I mean, it's literally, you can show them Keeling's curve and where we started at and where we're at now. It just goes straight up to the moon. And if they can't understand that, I mean, I've pointed this out to doctors. I'm doing a job right now installing a full house generator for a doctor, and she's a really bright lady, but she had no idea. That I'm just telling you, people are flat-footed regarding what's going on. And back to what was mentioned earlier by Jonathan, you know, there might be part of something in people that are saying, well, hell, less people on the earth, everybody's talking about that, better for humanity. They just don't realize it's coming knocking at your door next. I mean, I probably live in a pretty decent area, initially with climate change here in the Bay Area, because we're on a peninsula and it just seems really mild, but it's coming. And when it starts shutting down crops in Nebraska or wherever the heck the whole belt is there, I mean, just the panic that I saw over toilet paper and supplies at the start of COVID, I mean, you know, that was telling. It's funny. I just keep on thinking that some people are talking to me a little bit about my banner on the back of my car. I see people looking it up, but this is one of those things that once you know, unless you are some fanatical sect that I'm not exactly sure how that works out. Once you know this and you've got enough brains to be able to hold this information, you can't unlearn it. You know, you can't not. If you can find out about this information and turn a blind eye, even after finding out that there's something that, I mean, that's what's going to be interesting about this weekend or Saturday, which is tomorrow, is to just see where I can communicate with people that they're like, oh, well, holy crap, I see it now. If I can get enough of those rolling, that hell, I might even, I get enough of those rolling, I might just put the Keeling curve on the back of my car. Here we are. Yeah, this is real. Yes, we both stepped into our pants today, 1 foot at a time, everybody. We're all in this together. That's something that I do like to repeat. Whatever it is, we're all in this together. Because that's the truth. And and I think that the rich do think that it won't affect them, and it won't affect them nearly as much as the poor initially, but it's coming. It's coming. I passed the feather.
Just a small point, real quick. We don't all put our pants on one leg at a time. Firemen not only jump in with both feet at the same time, they're right in their boots at the same time also. I thought we could use that.
Do they stand on
I'm
a chair? Do they have like a pants holder and then they jump into the honestly, how does that work?
They turn, they're laying on their bed, they turn, their pants are right there on the floor next to them. They put both feet in, pull them up, pull the suspenders on, and start heading for the pole.
Have you guys seen the ad where they're interviewing the guy with that invented sliced bread? It's pretty friggin' funny. And
No.
he's panicking because somebody came up with a better idea or something, and he's like, "What? That's impossible! No!" Yeah, it's interesting to see. You know, I had a friend of mine that was a mechanic, and he goes, I'm going to retire changing Volvo 240 timing belts. And I'm thinking to myself, no, you're not. People aren't going to be paying $1,500 to change a timing belt that the car is worth $600. These things are going to go out like dinosaurs. A couple years later, yeah, because they were dinosaurs, the business just went under. But, you know, you live and learn. Gets back to friends of mine that won't watch a sad movie. That's a really good movie, but it's sad. Schindler's List, you can name off a ton. But I just cracks me. I've just, you know, do you know how nicer it would be if we could actually make SRM work and versus what's coming? Do you have any idea what's coming? Why don't you have any idea what's coming? Why don't you know about climate? How come a contractor, a building and electrical contractor is coming to your PTA? This is a parent teacher association, right? And you don't know about this. Is it because it wasn't in the history book? Was it because it wasn't in your calendar? How come I know about this and you don't?
Bill, when I listen to you, I feel like I'm listening to myself think.
Yeah. So you're going crazy too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so clear. It's so clear. So that's why we're doing the press conference, which is what the previous meeting that we watched the recording of is a buildup to, right? In case it hasn't been said or emphasized enough, that meeting is a buildup to an international press conference consisting of scientists, engineers, political leaders, maybe some nonprofit leaders. It's basically, hello world, wake the bleep up. And the good news is we have a solution which we need to implement, which hardly anyone knows about. And that's all changing right now. Hello world, wake up, spread the message, join the conversation. Subtext, or die. Wishing you had. Now is the time. Life is on the table.
It was interesting. Peter Wadhams was asked one time, because he sometimes has almost a jovial disposition, and they're saying, why do you seem so like almost happy? He goes, well, I'm not happy, but he says, and I think he's got grandkids, but he says, my life is just about over here, everybody. So this is going to affect me probably, but it's, you know. And Richard Manning, he was asked one time in an interview, well, what are you going to do about it? Richard's like, I've been talking about this for the past, 20 years. He goes, I'm passing the torch. What are you going to do about it? Have you ever listened to some of Richard Manning? I think I've sent them to you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, it really puts things into perspective.
Oh yeah.
He's a good listen to. Normally I listen to that. I'm getting ready to head on down to Santa Barbara and visit my daughter tonight, and then wake up crack of dawn and get down to you, Jamin. But I like to listen to him on that 3-hour stint down to Santa Barbara. It's just something about his voice on that one about 10 years ago he did.
Yeah. No, that's a great one.
I actually I YouTubed the other day, how do they make oil into fertilizer? And it's not specifically oil, it's
Natural gas.
natural gas. And then I still didn't get the answer I was looking for. And not all fertilizer is made out of natural gas, but a heck of a lot of it is. And there's a way that they do something. If somebody knows, you can just describe it to me, but they do something to change it into a nitrate, is what I understand, which is a fertilizer.
Yeah, it's some big industrial chemical engineering process where they're either polymerize or crack or whatever the heck. But anyway, they work their magic. The bottom line is a huge amount of natural gas goes into fertilizer, and we're dependent upon it.
I mean, what's interesting is just to think that if methane blows out far enough down in the water column, that organisms will eat it up, will eat that fuel as a food source before it can even reach the surface. The problem, obviously, with the Arctic shelf is that it's only 50 meters down, and there's a monster plume of it down there that could be blowing off right now as we're talking, as far as we know. Yippee-yi-yay.
Well, it's not over till it's over, and until then, we keep going and we keep accelerating, right? Let this be the battle of two exponentials. Ours is the benevolent exponential.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's more fun than being depressed. Trust me, I can promise you that.
Oh my goodness.
I have been I've been terribly depressed over this, and now I'm just in action mode. So, I mean, it's a little crazy. I'm trying to get, you know, keep the boat between the buoys, because you got to just keep on going, and you're just finding more candles to just light, finding more things to light and burn and go. And, but that's okay. I can multitask or try.
Yeah, the press conference is essential because we're this tiny, tiny minority that needs to grow into a much bigger minority. And that's what the press conference is going to accomplish. We're basically going to say, humanity, gehen wir oder gehen wir nicht?
Hmm.
How you doing there, Franca?
Well, I got up at 5 my time, and it's quite late for me, well, compared to that. And more specifically, I was just in awe of your German pronunciation. Wondering where you picked it up.
Well, remember, I'm part of the Special Forces embedded, you know, so, but don't tell anyone. Oh, shoot, we're recording.
Okay.
Dang. Anyway.
Yeah. Gotcha. I guess the reason I'm not panicking so much, and I'm just happy to be part of this and support it and be full of hope, is also not only my faith, but I live on this island. You know, we've got a very moderate climate, and I'm in the southeast. All the catastrophes are happening elsewhere on this island I'm living on. So I guess I'm like the rich in Bill's Bay a little bit. So I'm playing in both fields, like I do with the virus. I try and avoid getting it. I work online, and I kind of semi-shield, meet people preferably outside. And I try not to get either the virus nor the vaccine into me. So I'm playing in all kinds of fields quite happily, you know, like in my own space almost, deeply connected to people and kind of like bumbling along, kind of. Does that make any sense?
Sort of, yeah. You're interesting.
Hmm.
If I understood correctly, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on and you're just kind of going with it. Sorry, I got a little.
Kind of. I think what makes it special is that I'm watching people being completely polarized. So there are people who feel like, well, this is just a flu. So when it comes to the virus, for example, and I'm like just embodying both. Like, yep, I don't want to inhale it, so I'm keeping my distance where I can. And if I can sit out having to get vaccinated, yep, I'll do that as well. And here I'm so grateful that you know, with climate, the climate catastrophe, I can almost choose when to switch on working to extend our time on the planet, and just chilling on the beach because it's nice and cool. And there were only a few deadly hot days in summer so far anyway. So I'm where people are either or. I kind of live in both worlds. I think that's the most distinctive thing. I don't know anybody who's hanging with all kinds of crowds like me. That's slightly different from I just go with whatever.
No, definitely. Sorry, I'd gotten a little distracted, so. Yeah, no, you're hanging with different crowds. I get it. And I'm just so glad we're one of those crowds.
Oh. Hmm.
Yeah, I guess that's another thing we have in common, Franca. I know it was, people noticed it from time to time, like in junior high, that I would easily hang out with the stoners and, you know, skip class with the ones that just were cool and did that once in a while. And I was just as well welcomed everywhere except like the real, I could hang with the jocks without being interested in sports whatsoever. I don't know. I just fit in everywhere. And sometimes people would say, how didn't I see you with them? What are you doing here? But you know, you're cool, but how could you hang out with those guys? You know, that people couldn't understand, but I did it seamlessly enough that rarely anybody even noticed, only occasionally, that, hey, how can you fit in everywhere?
Mm.
I like people. What can I say?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I recognize the value in everyone.
Yes. I do get a little bit arrogant sometimes when somebody isn't very educated, and I'm aware of it, and I kind of atone and I repent, kind of like, get myself together again and see Christ in them. So yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the
Yes.
most difficult one to watch out for, is use an appropriate vocabulary for the group you're with. And I sent
Mhm.
Christopher a message couple weeks ago. I don't remember what it was. Or no, he heard me talking in here. I said something, he messaged me. He said, "Did you really just use that word?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He said, I don't think I've heard that word in like so many years or something. And I'm like, well, I do have a vocabulary. I just found that in my life, it was easier to drop most of it because it made people uncomfortable.
Was it a big word, a long one, an intellectual one?
Yeah, it was just one you rarely use. I can't even remember what it was. But yeah, I used to sit in school when I was done with my work. In order to stay out of trouble, I would read the dictionary and the encyclopedia. So I learned a lot of words.
Mm.
And quickly
Interesting.
found out that I needed to keep them to myself if I wanted to have friends. It's kind of weird, but oh well, that's long time ago.
I was shocked. I went to the American high school occasionally, very rarely, but when there was a German holiday and my American friends would have to go to school, so I'd get a hall pass, or I'd have to go to the principal and get myself like a pass. Anyway, I was in this English class, and I think it might have been 7th grade, something like that. And then almost as if this was something, it was a thing like spelling, and then, or even knowing words, like knowing what miscellaneous meant. That was like, ooh, the German knows what the word means, what? Or even knows how to spell it. I was really shocked at the level of what was even worth talking about. So why am I even saying that? I don't know. It was an army high school, middle school. Why am I even saying that? Yeah, I think it's easy to stick out. Possibly. It might be, maybe it was easy for you to be weird. By knowing a few things, or maybe a lot of things. By the way, I've got my eyes closed and my phone is where I can't see it. So I don't even know who's even in the room anymore, who's raising their hands. I guess I'm about to sign off anyway.
Well, pleasant dreams is what we can wish for you.
And Dharmendra will be here in 20 minutes, and we'll have a super cool accelerated collective evolution event. So feel free to stick around for that.
The jinkies and the cities.
Exactly.
We've got a lot of jinkies going on in the city. This was lovely that Marco helped me catch up with some of the vocab. Yeah. I learned all about the jinkies. I think I should have done something like get that piece of paper that says when exactly I was born and fill in something. Marco, that's the thing that I would have, should have done after our conversation, isn't it? Shouldn't I have?
Well, the link was there. I can find it again if you want it, but you sound like you're not able to use it right now. And
Yeah, no, I
I mean,
wouldn't do it now, but-
all you do is put in your, your name and your birth date, and it produces hologenetic what's it called? A hologenetic something or other.
A profile anyway.
Profile, yeah.
Yeah.
Couldn't think of the word.
It's definitely not tonight.
Right.
He's got a way with words. It's like poetry, and it just rolls off of his tongue like that. Just like a little pleasant brook. Very lovely.
It comes from years of, learning the things he knows.
Mm-hmm. Do you do any homework, or what's the progression from meeting to meeting?
Sometimes we get a clue in the email as to what it will be, and other times where we just are surprised when he's there. I think a couple of times he asks us kind of which direction to go in, and then he chooses a specific codone or gene key. In his practice, he calls them life codes or codones, but they directly relate to a gene key. It's the same thing. And then we just explore that, the shadow of that, the gift and the city. And it seems to work out. I've had a little, some epiphany each week so far. So
Wow.
I'm curious what today will be. I'm not sure what one we're working on today, but we'll see. And thinking that if he's going to be here that soon, I lost track of the time. I need to take a bio break and grab some food before
Here,
that.
I'm going to pause recording. I just noticed we've been recording the whole time.
Oh no.
Okay, in terms of posting this video, just an internal note. Let's make sure we chop off the last hour or so, the Christian religious stuff, etc. But otherwise, there was some good stuff before that. Okay, thanks.